bring order back to men's lives.
Welcome to my... Tonight I want to talk to you guys about how insurance companies have become shadow banks. So what does that mean? I'm not 100% sure, but let's dive into this. As I researched it this morning, insurance companies have become ingrained components of the shadow banking system by engaging financial activities that mirror traditional banking functions, specifically credit, maturity, liquidity, and transformation, without direct access to public liquidity, backstops, or explicit government guarantees. This transformation was driven by the pursuit of higher returns in a low interest rate environment, which pushed insurers to move beyond low risk investments and assume greater risk to meet performance benchmarks. As a result, they began investing in heavy and complex financial instruments such as mortgage-backed securities, credit derivatives, particularly through the sale of credit default swaps, CDS. American International Group, AIG, serves as a prominent example. Before it nearly collapsed in 2008, AIG had taken over $460 billion in position selling protection against credit risk, including $60.6 billion in protection for subprime mortgage-backed assets. This activity effectively made AIG a major player in the shadow banking system, as it provided insurance-like protection on risky assets, thereby enabling the leverage and risk across the financial market. The lack of regulation on CDSs as insurance contracts meant that AIG was not required to hold significant capital reserves to cover the potential claim, which contributed to its financial instability when defaults surged. So once again, most financial or insurance companies are required to meet certain capital reserves to cover potential claims, and what happened was not right. They're probably not good in the immediate or long-term picture, but let's move on. Insurance companies also acted as key indicators or investment in the junior and trenches of loan pools, providing risk capital that supported the shadow banking system's operations. They funded shadow banks through investments in longer-term instruments like middle-term notes and MTNs and bonds, while also participating in short-term funding markets such as repurchase agreements, commercial paper. The role was further amplified by the private sector backstops they provided, such as contingent credit lines, insurance swaps, that, while not public guarantees, were preserved as stability in chain and allowed shadow banks to issue high-rated liquidity short-term liabilities. The fragility of this system became evident during the 2007 to 2009 financial crisis, when the collapse of AIG and other insurers triggered widespread panic and a loss of confidence in the shadow banking network. The failure of these institutions, which were systematically important due to their scale, interconnectedness, and reliance on short-term funding, underscored how insurance companies had evolved into de facto shadow banks. So moving on here to our next section that we usually talk about in our Mademanministries website is, what does the Bible say? What does the KJV, King James Version of the Bible say? Insurance companies have become a part of the modern shadow banking system by engaging in bank-like activities such as lending and maturity transformation without facing the same stringent regulations as traditional banks. This phenomenon is driven by a search for higher yields in a low interest rate environment and regular arbitration. The KJV of the Bible does not directly mention modern financial institutions, but several verses can be interpreted to touch upon these financial prudence and risk and oversight. How insurance companies become shadow banks. The term shadow banking refers to a diverse group of non-bank financial institutes that conduct market-based financial intermediation, including credit, liquidity, maturity transformation, using short-term funds to buy long-term assets. Okay. Number one, search for yield. With traditional investments offering low returns, insurers have pushed into more aggressive higher yielding assets such as private credit and commercial mortgages. This shift moves them into bank-like lending activities. Regulatory arbitrage. Insurance companies are primarily regulated by state insurance commissions and are not subject to the strict capital reserve and liquidity rules as traditional banks, which will fall under federal oversight. This regular cap allows them to take on more risk. Complex instruments. Some insurers have used complex financial products like credit default swaps, CDS, which contributed to the financial systematic risk in the 2008 crisis. For example, AIG's collapse. The lack of central bank access. Unlike traditional banks, shadow banks do not have direct access to central emergency lending facilities, lenders of last resort, which make them vulnerable to liquidity crisis or runs. So let's break it down. We got a table here: financial theme, right? Description in modern context, and the KJV translation. So it's prudence and planning. So that's the theme. And modern context: the need for wise management of assets and preparing for future uncertainty. And where do you find it in the Bible? Proverbs chapter 1, verse 5. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attend unto wise counsel. Risky and surety is the theme. And explanation is caution against excessive risk-taking and guaranteeing the debts of others without proper backing. And where do we find this in the King James Version? We find it in Proverbs chapter 11, verse 15. He that is surety for a stranger shall smart for it, and he that hateth suretyship is sure. Not too sure what that meant, but okay. Oversight and regulation. And here's the modern explanation. the importance of transparency and accountability in managing resources, which shadow banking often lacks. Okay. And where do we find this in the King James Version of the Bible? We find it Exodus chapter 18, verse 21. Providence, out of all the people, able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such them over them to be rulers. Wealth and covetousness. Modern explanation, the danger of relentlessly pursuing high yields and profit, potentially lending to risky behavior. And where do we find this in the great King James Version of the Bible? Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 10. He that loveth silver shall not be satisfied with silver, nor he that loveth abandoned with increase. Abundant increase. And our next name is called hidden dealings. Modern explanation. The opulent of the shadow banking system, shadows as a potential source of instability. Whoa. So let's go here. Isaiah chapter 29, verse 15. Woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from the Lord, and their works are in the dark. So, if you like this video on how insurance companies became shadow banks, like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos. Check us out in our Mademanministries YouTube channel. And you can also check out our website. It is mademanministries.com. And as always, if you'd like to donate to our ministry, or you just like the benefit of what we talk about, please donate to us at Buy Me a Coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Mademanministries. And you can give anywhere from 5, 10, 20, 50, or 100, depending on how you think we've benefited you. As always, thanks again.